Hello, welcome back to Math Success Seminar Online. I'm going to talk about decimal operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing decimals, what it looks like, techniques on how to keep everything straight, how to make sure that you do the math properly and get the right answer out of it. So to start with addition, I wrote out 0.34 plus 0.1. Another way to read this would be 34 hundredths plus 1/10. Now, when you're adding things together and subtracting things, maybe it's easiest to stack them vertically like this. And the important thing is you want to line up the decimal. That way you can see exactly what place you're adding the two numbers to. So notice we have a tenth here and a hundredth here. Here we have a tenth. We don't have a hundredth, so we can actually scale this up to be 10 hundredths. And now you just add like you would normally. So 4 plus 0, 3 plus 1, and you keep the decimal where it is. And always, always, always line the decimals up. So with this one is mixing. I'm going to mix a little bit of Pearson in here, but since this is subtraction, we're going to keep change. So change this to plus, change that to a negative 1.76. And now, even more than ever, I highly recommend vertically stacking them so you can see exactly what numbers you're adding or subtracting to what. This 4, because here we have 2 decimal places, here we have 3. So this is the hundredth place, this is the thousandth place. Notice we don't have a number right here, so we want to fill it in with a 0. Why? Because these two are going to interact somehow, and now we have to figure out how to go about the problem. So these two numbers are different signs, so that means we're finding the difference between them, which means we're subtracting them. So when you're subtracting them, we can't subtract 4 from 0, so let's borrow one here. 10 minus 4 is 6, 5 minus 3 is 2, 7 minus 1 is 6, and 1 minus 0 is 1. But notice I put the number with the larger absolute value up top, so that the answer is going to come out to be a negative number. So adding and subtracting, always line up the decimals, and then worry about the individual operations you do. And the decimal just stays where it is, and if it turns out to be a whole number, you got a whole number in a decimal. But now multiplication, we got 0.5 times 0.6. So this one, if we stack it vertically, 0.5, 0.6. So you want to carry out your multiplication like normal, but something special is going to happen with the decimals when you got multiplication. 6 times 5 is 30. So we got, let's see, 30. 6 times 5 is 30. Technically, I would write it like this. Let's see, 3, or that's 0, carry the 3. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. Then we got 0, 0, so we don't have to worry about that. Since we have 2 decimal places, like 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, then that means our decimal is going to go 1, 2. 0.3 is going to be our answer. Just to show in a different way, what if it was 0.5 and 0.15? So notice we don't have a hundredths here. So let me switch the order of these two. 0.15. So here, when you're multiplying, it's not as important to keep the decimals lined up. because we're going to do something special with decimals anyways, you just carry out your multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2 over, 5 times that plus 2 is 7, 5 times that is 0. So now, how many decimal, because 0 times this is 0, 0, 0, 0, so we don't have to write that. But how many decimal places do we have between the two numbers? 1, 2, 3. So that means 1, 2, 3. Our answer is going to be 0.075. So this is the tricky part about multiplying decimals. But once you know, well, it's how many decimal places I have, and that carries over, then it becomes a little more obvious. The last one I was going to do, 0.7 divided by 0.3. So that means we're taking 0.7 and we are dividing it by 0.3, or 7/10 divided by 3/10. When you're dividing, the decimal places will cancel out for the answer. I'll get to that in a sec. But basically these zeros, how many times can 3 go into 0? Well, it can't. How many times can 3 go into 7? 3 can go into 7 twice, and that is a 6. Subtract that off. 1, can 3 go into 1? No. Can 3 go into 10? Yes. How many times? 3. That multiplied out. So I'm just treating these like the normal numbers. I'm not even worrying about decimals right now. It's very similar to 7 over 3, like if I just carried this division out. So whenever you have those decimal places, just know in the back of your mind to save that for later. Think of it as like 7 divided by 3 for now. What does that turn out to be? That's 1. And notice we got a repeating pattern, because how many times can 3 go into 10? 3 times. So this is going to be 3 forever. So now the question is, how do these two interact? Well, we're going to have 1 decimal place and 1 decimal place. Since we're dividing them, they actually cancel each other out. So where the decimal would be, let's see, I guess at the front, it would be 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place. So 2.3 continued would be your answer. I know the division is kind of weird, and I have to get going now, but I will start tomorrow with doing more examples of weird decimal division and decimal multiplication. I just wanted to briefly cover in this video how addition subtraction is going to look and how multiplication division is going to work. But I will catch you next time.